Let's take a look at those front two rows and see how things are going to shake out here in the second half.
All right, we just heard from our pole sitter, car number 95, Bubba Urban Jr. Next to him in car number 4, that will be Wayne Grubb. Row number 2 on the inside, our first 75-lap winner, the 55 of Kevin Grubb. And next to him, car number 1, Frank Daney Jr.
B.A. Wilson will be looking for that first victory from the 5th starting position in car number 81, the 3 of David Blankenship on the outside of that third row, 2 of Danny Willis, and the 85 of Rodney Sawyers back in row number 4.
Cars start to roll out on the speedway, and we go to row number 5 on the inside. Car number 12, Jerry Wayne Vaughn outside. Car number 8, good run for Steve Stallings in the first 75-lapper. Row number 6 on the inside. Car number 90, that's Shane Lockhart. And next to Shane, the number 7 of Vance Wright.
Tyler McRae in car number 41 will go 13th here in the second race. Jimmy Johnson in that Rick Hendrick car number 91 will go 14th. The 36 of Rob Ziegler and the 01 of Lynn O'Neill round out the top 16 starters.
Row number 9, they'll find on the inside the 59 of Kenny Cagle. Next to Kenny, the 24 car of Barry Hopkins. Row number 10 on the inside, the 20 of Matt Williams. And next to Matt will be the 02 car, and that is Dennis Gardner.
Rounding out your final 3 rows, Dokie Bagby in the 14 will go in the number 21 spot. Kevin Johnson in car number 97. He was one of the drivers that fell into the attrition pot. He will go 22nd schedule, but he is still back behind his trailer. The 28 of Greg Davis also was involved in an incident early. Greg is back out, as is the 92 of Chris Evans. He has pulled it away from the trailer. The 4 of Jay Fogelman has also returned as well, and the number 11 of Chuck Hendricks. So it looks like as far as the attrition rate is concerned, the 97 of Kevin Johnson may be the only driver that is not out there of the early part of 1997.
Be interesting to keep our eyes also back there. Number 3 car, David Blankenship. He faded a little bit towards the end of that first 75-lapper, but a lot of experience here. He probably went into the pit area, knew exactly what to do to the car, change tire pressure, take a turn on this corner, that corner. He may be a car that makes an adjustment and is good in this second race.
Not one to be forgotten about. Blankenship will go from the outside of row number 3. Wilson tucked to the inside as they get up through the gearbox and back to the green flag. Our second 75-lap event here in the CarQuest Auto Parts Twins. And quickly, Kevin Grubb, who has got excellent starts, gets the lead, and Urban almost loses it coming off of turn number 2. As a matter of fact, he'll lose another spot to Frank Denny. Wayne Grubb is on the outside as they come back for lap number 1.
Boy, we said start's going to be important here, and a great start for Kevin Grubb, and then Bub Urban got a little sideways. That could have been real messy there at the front of the field, but look at Grubb running away. Now, look at the battle there for second place.
Frank Denny, for the moment, has got it. Bubba Urban wants a piece of one of those spots back if he can get it. He draws even in turn number 1 and 2. Wayne Grubb is hot on Urban's heels down to the inside. Back in 4th position, Wilson holding on to 5th. Blankenship in 6th. Danny Willis with some power. Back in 7th. Rodney Sawyers early in 8th. Steve Stallings in the number 9 spot. And Shane Lockhart rounds out the early top 10.
Boy, hats off to Bub Urban Jr. He got sideways. He had a terrible start to the race, but he battles back and will reclaim now second spot. So hats off to that driver, not getting down because he messed up on the start there and working his way back to second place. That's a good piece of driving.
He easily could have gone back to about 4th, 5th, 6th spot, and he just he shows some veteran-type experience that he's got in the very early stages of his racing career. Now we've got Wilson and Denny side by side. B.A. wants to get back up in there and get some revenge here in race number 2.
Hey, guy's got to be scratching his head this year. It's got to be B.A. Wilson. As we said, 9 feature wins here last season, and now he has watched young Kevin Grubb take 3 in a row. So he wants to get up there and race. And by the way, we mentioned this, you and I, when we were on break. For those people who don't realize it, Kevin Grubb, that driver right there, coming out turn number 4, is in his senior year of high school.
Truck racing. You also understand that BA is trying to get himself a Slim Jim All-Pro ride put together as we got a major tangle in turn number 2. It was triggered by the number 7 of Vance Wright, one of the rookies in the field. There you see the 14 of Dokie Bagby just backing into the driver's side door. And Vance was a driver we were talking about off camera moments ago. He finished, I believe, in 12th in that first race as a rookie. And from what we understand, the first couple of races this year, Vance has had some very solid runs. Been a little bit of fluid dumped earlier, but now the safety crews are going out to check it out right now.
Several cars involved in that. Let's take a look at it again here. And you're right, action spot there in turn number 2. And there's Chuck Hendrick getting involved in it. That's a shame because that young man has had a tough evening, and he's back in the pit area now. So tough night for that third-generation driver. That's been tough.
Just to update our racing fans, if you were curious as to what drivers that went out in race number 1 came back for race number 2, the only driver that did not make it back out, unfortunately, behind there, and also the number 91 of Jimmy Johnson, latest protege from Rick Hendrick. The man must see something in this driver. We're going to have to watch him very carefully in the next couple years and see whether Rick Hendrick was on the money. He's been on the money with a lot of drivers.
Yeah, and I believe that driver is Jimmy Johnson. I believe they said a West Coast guy from out west. coming here to the east to race. I'm not positive on that, but I heard some folks talking they did done some racing on the west coast. Look like we're going to have a little while here because they're working there in turn number 2.
Caution remains out. We are at lap number 10 again, as the case in this first event. The caution laps will be counting here this evening, so we are at lap number 10 right now. The 14 of Doki Bagby will be the latest driver to go off on the hooks of the attrition. Back in to get back into second. Wayne Grubb remains in third. B.A. Wilson and Frank Denny Jr. the early top 5. David Blankenship right now will hold on to the number 6 spot. 7th going to Danny Willis. He's shown a little horsepower, and I think you'll see he and Blankenship have a good battle here on the restart. Back in 8th position, the 85 of Rodney Sawyers. Steve Stallings in car number 8 holding on to 9th. And the number 90 of Shane Lockhart. He finished 11th in race number 1. Currently finds himself back there in 10th. Not a good situation on pit road. It looks like simultaneously we will see the 11 and the 7 of Chuck Hendrick and Vance Wright both pull their cars back behind the trailer.
Jim on these restarts.
He was very impressive on the initial start from the outside of row number 1, and there you see it as he comes off at turn number 4, getting a couple of car lengths already on Bubba Urban Jr. as they come down to the start-finish line and head back off into turn number 1. Wayne Grubb reigning back in third. B.A. Wilson now with pressure from Frank Denny Jr. and Danny Willis also pressuring David Blankenship as they came off that turn and they stay single file.
Another impressive restart for Grubb. Meanwhile, this is going to be a great race, but I think it may be for second.
Could be. We could see in race number 1, we could not go beyond the top 5-6 cars before we saw the battle for the lead. Maybe here in race number 2, the way it looks, we might have a chance to talk about some of the other drivers we haven't had the opportunity to talk about tonight.
Saw some sparks there from Bubba Urban's car as he went down. Might have just hit a bump or something. But keeping on him, that time he was fine. But saw a few sparks there the last lap or so. Boy, there's a good battle. The 92 car, Chris Evans, who didn't get a whole lot of laps in the first race, trying to work his way back up through this field as he comes out of turn number 4.
That's back for about 11th, 12th position, and that's a credit to his crew to get that car put back together, and he is knocking on the door to try to get into the top 10 here this evening.
Trying to make it a 1-2 Grubb run here as they're back down in 1 and 2.
Wayne is going to try to equal the score with brother Kevin. Kevin's now got 2 victories to Wayne's 1 here in the early part of 1997. Urban again has been able to fend him off, and we'll see how long that can last. B.A. Wilson remains back there in that number 4 position with Frank Denny in 5th. Blankenship and Willis remain together back there in the number 6 and 7 spot. Then a little bit of a gap. Go about 5, 6, 7 car
Now
lengths.
look at B.A. coming up there giving him a little tap. B.A. would like to get back up front and try to win this thing.
He took a peek on the outside in turn 1 and 2. He looks on the inside coming off of turn number 4. And we also got to credit Chris Evans moments ago. He got around the Jerry Wayne Vaughn machine. And that'll put him in 11th position, right behind the 90 of Shane Lockhart. So this driver trying to make amends after the disaster at race number 1 to try and at least get a top 10 run here this evening.
Good battle for second place. These guys back down in 1 and 2. Wayne Grubb on the inside, Bubba Urban Jr. on the outside. Defending track champion B.A. Wilson there in the 81 car. And that man, nice again. He gets up on the high side, able to hold off Wayne Grubb, but for how long?
Well, Urban's been able to hold him off on the high side. Let's see if Wilson can pass him on the high side.
Yeah, look at B.A. says, well, if you can hold him off on the high side, maybe I'll go up there and try it. And there's B.A. on the high side. Gives Urban a little bit of a tap, but B.A. going to try to make the pass on the high side. That's wild racing right there.
Well, I tell you, as he came off that 4th turn, it looked like he had the notion of threading the needle and coming right up in between the two of them. We know better of that here at South Boston Speedway. But once again, he'll have to fall back in line to the number 4 spot. Meanwhile, we mentioned about a quarter of a straightaway lead moments ago for Kevin Grubb. That battle has now made it into a full straightaway lead. And trouble just in front of the drivers in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. There you see the 24 of Barry Hopkins. Not a good night for that driver, and he almost looped it just in front of those 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place cars. And Willis gets into Blankenship just a little bit as he came off turn number 2. Blankenship able to save it, but by the time he can, Willis ducks underneath. The KFC Pontiac has now moved himself up into the number 6 spot. Blankenship will go back to 7th, the 8th position. We'll be going to the 85 of Rodney Sawyers. You know, Rodney really hasn't been right on the setup tonight. I expected to see him just a little bit closer to the front tonight, and just he's been a top 10 car, but maybe like an also ran tonight, and that's not a vintage Rodney Sawyers that we've seen in the past.
Driver that had a good run in the first half was Steve Stallings. He had a top 10 finish, but now that number 8 driver has brought his Pontiac onto pit road, and they don't seem too busy down there. Maybe done for the evening.
Looks like a lot of fluid could be done. Speedway's Productions coverage of Winston Racing Series late model stock car action tonight here at the South Boston Speedway, Virginia is brought to you by CarQuest Auto Parts Stores, by Duragloss, and by South Boston Speedway. Edwin, things are getting a little hairy back in the number 2 spot.
Yeah, Kevin's checked out on this field, but let's go back a little bit farther. There's the number 1 car of Frank Denny Jr. We've got caution on the Speedway. He and Danny Willis were about to get into a real exciting race there with this buffer between your leader and 3rd place. Now Bubba Urban Jr. going to start to work some of that lap traffic. And looks like trouble on the number 2 car. Danny Willis is off the pace in that car, number 2. There he is coming out of turn number 4. Willis had worked himself up, I believe, to about 6th place, but obviously something's gone awry on that KFC car.
63 laps on the board, make it 64, and 11 to go here this evening in the second 75-lap segment. And Bubba Urban gets out of shape on his own going into turn number 1 and 2. Wayne Grubb, I think he was caught by surprise because Wayne also slipped a little bit. I don't think he expected what he saw, but it was just a slip by Urban himself. He was able to maintain that number 2 spot. Grubb is right on the rear deck lid back in 3rd. Wilson in 4th, and Denny remains in 5th with a couple lap cars between himself and the rest of the field.
That is a good battle for 2nd place. Bubba Urban Jr. a couple times has opened the door for the guys behind him, then stood right back on it and kept those guys in check. So that's been a good race there. Which line to follow?
Bubba took a very high line coming off turn 4, bobbled slightly, but is still able to draw even with Wayne Grubb. He holds on to the number 2 spot for the moment. Field coming back for lap number 75 to go. And if you had to call it right there, give it to Lockhart, but just in front trouble. Barry Hopkins and also the 59 of Kenny Cagle get together, 1 down low and 1 up high. Again up through the gearbox. Kevin Grubb about 2 car lengths of an advantage back into turn number 1 and 2. Bubba Urban goes with him this time a little bit better. He pulls away from Wayne Grubb and comfortably holds on to the number 2 spot. Wayne Grubb back in 3rd. Wilson holding on to 4th. Denny in 5th as the field will come back for the white flag. 1 lap to go this time by.
That Bullet sponsored car looks like it's bulletproof. They're back down in 1 and 2 and half a lap away from making it 4 straight in trouble in turn number 2.
Chris Evans, one of the drivers involved as they come back to the stripe. It will be the yellow and the checkered, and victory number 3 of this young 1997 season for young Kevin Grubb. It'll be Bubba Urban Jr. coming home in the number 2 spot. Wayne Grubb in 3rd. B.A. Wilson and Frank Denny Jr. will be the top 5.
Congratulations, a great run for you tonight, and not bad. Home team sports, you win 2 twin 75s. That last race, you ran a little bit further distance, but you know, great run for you tonight. This is 5 in a row if you go back to last season. And the first time on 4/10 of a mile here that this been done. I think Hermie Sadler was the last one to do it.
Yeah, I tell you, South Boston Speedway, it's a great racetrack. All the people here are great. You know, I have a great car. Hitchcock Race Cars built the car, and Morris Johnson, he's my crew chief. Couldn't do it without them. Bullets, Peterbilt trucks, they're my sponsors, and you know, just to come out here and run as good as we have, it's been like a dream. You know, this year it's been real good to me. Every race we've run besides Martinsville, me and my brother have won, and so far 97 has been a real good year for Grubb Motorsports, and hope we can keep on doing it and come back to South Boston next week.
Kevin Grubb with a sweep here this weekend in the CarQuest Auto Store's Twin 75s. For John Evans down on pit road and my tag team partner here, Edwin Pardue, and our entire Speedway production staff, I'm Buddy Long. Thanks very much for joining us, and join us on our next HTS broadcast of the NASCAR Winston Racing Series. Good night, everybody.